So last year I was an idiot, and this mistake pretty much killed a couple of my fantasy teams because I thought it was really, really clever to do this. And when you're talking about playing fantasy football, there are really two sides we've kind of ended up in, and we've ended up on slightly different sides a little bit. And so I want to talk about that first.
Sort of. We have to exploit any sort of minute difference that we have in philosophy, period.
So this year, I'm leaning more when I'm doing my fantasy football drafts on the side of taking safety and security. So guys that I know are going to produce most likely. So like we're talking about safety and security, and the other side of that when you're drafting in fantasy football is drafting for upside. And so you saw it when we compared our top 12 fantasy football prospects this year. The 8 through 12 range was different because you were going more upside picks and I was going more safety picks, right? I tended to go more receivers and more safe running backs, and you were going like, okay, I like this running back because I think he has really high scoring upside, right? And so last year, here's the mistake I made that killed me. Last year, I was taking consistent discounts in the first 4 rounds on guys like Cooper Kupp, guys like Jonathan Taylor, guys like Josh Jacobs, because I thought that I was basically building a juggernaut for the end of the season. I thought, okay, if everybody else is going to pass on these guys, because with Cooper Kupp drafting after his hamstring injury, right? He had the hamstring injury in camp, and then most people were drafting after that, right? So he fell 3rd or 4th round, right? Jonathan Taylor was holding out from practice. It was a big he hated Chris Ballard and the Colts, and the Chris Ballard, and then his agent was an idiot, and it was all that stuff. And so he didn't even know if he's going to play this year. Most people were saying he wasn't going to play. We knew better than that, but also the fact that he was a little bit injured. Josh Jacobs was going at a significant discount because he was also holding out at one point, and also because he had been leading the NFL in touches the year before. But again, situationally, it was because for last year, Josh Jacobs, it was because he was holding out and because he wasn't sure, like people weren't sure if he was going to play or what. And so when I saw that in fantasy drafts, consistently I was like, I'm just going to capitalize and take JT in the 4th. I'm just going to capitalize and take Cooper Kupp in the 3rd, even the 2nd, because he was in the 1st round of fantasy drafts until the hamstring injury. So like he was going, if I got him mid-second, I'm like, I'm going to snag Cooper Kupp. Everybody's sleeping on him. I'm playing the market. This is a great pick, blah, blah, blah. Well, in reality, what happened was it didn't work out. Because Kupp was good, but Kupp didn't play for half the season. And when he did play, there's this guy called Puka, and he completely thwarted my plans with Cooper Kupp, okay? And Jonathan Taylor, he did end up playing.
The biggest waiver cheat code we've ever seen. Like if you ended up winning your league with Puka Nacua, like whatever, whatever,
like,
dude.
Congrats,
sure,
you did it.
Okay, you got lucky enough.
That's why I think we should advocate for people in fantasy football to have bidding waivers more instead of just like random waivers, because that's a huge part of the strategy.
Yes.
And I won't be playing in like our domain leagues this year. They're going to be bidding waivers. She made that decision last year because it's a big part of the strategy. Anyways,
it is.
Rabbit trailing. I was spending my picks on those guys, and it didn't work out for JT. He played half the season, but when he did play, he was playing with Gardner Minshew, not Anthony Richardson. It was a lot less dynamic.
And he was still productive, but he had finicky stuff too. It was like his thumb, and I was like, "Why are you missing a game because of your thumb? Like, just play." But whatever.
And with Josh Jacobs, he was not good last year. And so I was spending my picks on those guys thinking they could pay off in a huge way, but more often than not, I was just throwing away a pick. So here's an example. This was the 10-team league that I drafted last year. I want you to tell me what you think of this. Round 1 last year in a 10-team, I took Tyreek Hill in round 1. That worked out. That was a pretty good pick, right? All right, we're off to a good start. Round 2, I took Cooper Kupp at the 2-7 because Cooper Kupp fell. Okay, what could I have done instead? I could have taken Amon-Ra St. Brown. I could have taken CD Lamb there. I freaking hate my life looking back on that draft. Amon-Ra and CD, right? 2 guys that were projected to be top 5 wide receivers last year. Two guys that are safer options at the position. And I took the discounted the injured player there, a hamstring on a 30-year-old idiot. Round 3, I decided to take the value here as well, and I took Tony Pollard in the 3rd. This is after me sitting on this channel and telling people that they're stupid for taking Tony Pollard in fantasy drafts. Took Tony Pollard, though, because he fell to me. All right, cool. And then round 4, I took Jonathan Taylor. He wasn't practicing. He was holding out from camp, and I thought, 4th round, he's going to be great at the end of the year. I'll take him. I was way too focused on the end of the year. So I spent 2 of my top 4 picks on discounted guys that fell to me when in reality what I probably should have done is I probably should have let them keep falling. Because Jonathan Taylor, I looked at other fantasy drafts, I saw him going in the 6th round. Cooper Kupp, I saw him going in the 4th. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to take all these guys because they're good discounts. I should have taken Amon-Ra CD. In the 4th round, instead of Jonathan Taylor, I could have taken Jahmyr Gibbs. I could have taken Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Travis Etienne, Breece Hall, DJ Moore. All safer picks there. Every single one of them. If I was going to take a shot on somebody, why not take a shot on freaking Breece Hall? Hindsight's 2020, but taking Jonathan Taylor at that price was a bad idea. And so...
Well, the same reason you took Jonathan Taylor at price is the same reason that a lot of people took Breece Hall at price. You know, because he was coming off of injury, JT was coming off of injury.
But at least we knew Breece Hall was going to play. Like with Taylor, he didn't even play the first half of the season, or the first. It was how many games?
4 games.
4 games.
Yeah.
No, I thought he came back on and then he was hurt, and so he didn't play for a minute.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Anyways, the difference was we knew Breece Hall was going to be available. Like there weren't concerns about that. It was just concerns about how productive he'd be, not if he'd be productive at all. Yep. And so that makes it riskier. But I don't want you guys to repeat that mistake. And so I've like hard adjusted. Like I'm a big, like, try something out. If it doesn't work, I'm hard adjusting. I'm going to go now and I'm going to pick safe guys. But let's talk about this year, how we can maybe use this and like maybe some situational discounts this year that we think may occur.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think some of the situational discounts last year were a little bit unique because like you said, Cooper Kupp was just a tough case. And honestly, if we weren't speaking Puka Nakua's name, maybe Cooper Kupp was going to be as productive as a lot of people anticipated him to be. But that was just a curveball from left field that no one expected, period. And you would have been crazy to expect that. So honestly, I kind of like, that's just the luck of the draw sometimes when you're taking a shot on a guy like that who you should reasonably expect to be productive. And in samples, Cooper Kupp was still productive that year, just not to the extent that you maybe had hoped or expected.
Not in second round return on investment.
Tony Pollard, there's no excuse. You were just an idiot. I'm kidding.
No, you're right.
I think the two biggest ones here, though, are Pollard and JT, and it is coming off of the injury that's kind of downplayed. And then you've got some like unproven, hasn't had a bell cow workload in the past, and unproven JT in a new offense, in a new situation where honestly he's kind of a big reason that the team culture could go to crap because he was such a jerk. Yeah. And to me, that was a very merited red flag, and that's really what separated a guy from like Breece Hall from Jonathan Taylor, for example. Right. But honestly, like I don't think just because it didn't necessarily work out for you doesn't mean that it's not always the right move to go with upside or safety in some ranges in the draft. Like, for example, in one of my teams last year, I ended up being third in the league, and my first 2 picks were Austin Eckler and Josh Jacobs. And I didn't get Puka Nacua off waivers. I still was third in the league, and it still worked out really well because we had good shots on wide receivers. We had good shots on some of your mid-range quarterbacks that ended up producing more than you expected or things like that. And there's always going to be give and take there, right? And sometimes it's going to end up screwing you and you're just going to miss out on making the playoffs in your league. But we all know, like, whoever wins your league in the championship or whatever in fantasy, that's luck once you get to the playoffs. Really, it's about getting to the playoffs.
The whole body of work.
that's the body of work. And for me, going with those 2 running backs last year, yeah, it totally could have screwed me. I could have ended up being dead last. Somehow ended up being third. But like for some of the guys this year with the situational discounts, I was trying to think up guys right now in their respective prices. Like, who are those quote unquote situational discounts going right now, and why are they going at a discount compared to last year? Because last year, like we already said, some of it was injury, some of it was situation. This year, your round 1 situational discount is Justin Jefferson, hands down. Like he's falling as far as 7th overall, being the 7th overall pick. And do I think that's a merited situational discount? To an extent, yes, but it is Justin Jefferson. And it's not coming off of an injury, right? And it's not coming off of a or coming off of a body of workload where he produced way less than when he wasn't with Kirk Cousins. That's not true. He was just as productive and got the same amount of targets. So for me, that situational discount, I'd probably be more inclined to bite on this year than I would someone last year, right? Devontae Adams in the 2nd round, a situational discount this year because of Gardner Minshew, period. Because for some reason, getting Gardner Minshew as your quarterback is a step down from Jimmy Garoppolo. And he was still the wide receiver 10 overall last year and had like over 160 targets or something like that. To me, that's a pretty solid situational discount that I might want to take a shot on in the 2nd round.
Right.
3rd round, Kyron Williams, situational discount because of Blake Corum. And I think you and I would both agree there that we'd probably, want to take a shot on Kyron Williams, who scored 22 points per game last year in that price range. And then Michael Pittman, I put him in the 3rd round because sometimes he's going in the 3rd, sometimes he's going in the 4th. But kind of your 4th round guy who's going at a discount right now because of Adonai Mitchell and because of Anthony Richardson and people not believing that he can throw the ball when we know that he's going to get a floor of about 140 targets.
Right.
So I think your situational discounts, like you're saying, some of those didn't come to light until closer to the start of the season, like in August, when people started to really anticipate when these players were going to start, actually having an impact on the field. And to me, maybe we wait for these situational discounts to occur closer to the season until we really have a good idea of where these guys' prices are eventually going to land, because there's a lot of fluctuation from now until the end of August, right? Yeah. So maybe those situations aren't going to come to fruition until a little bit down the road. But I see what you're saying there, and I do understand.
The big difference there between kind of the situational, because I agree, most of the situational discounts you're seeing so far this year, situational discounts, I'm taking shots on most of them.
Yeah.
The difference is with
those might not be your situational discounts at the end of August.
And the reason that was true last year was because the Jonathan Taylor thing, the Cooper Kupp thing, didn't happen until training camp. And so those were like right up to the season, training camp headlines.
And they were injury based.
And when you're looking last year, it kind of exactly. And
I think that's the case.
It is. And so I think the injury base, so that's, to me, those situational discounts, Jefferson, Adams, Williams, and Pittman.
Let's play theory.
Okay.
Devon Achane's price right now is, his ADP is 24th. He's going at the tail end of the second, beginning of the third.
Yeah.
Training camp report comes out that Devon Achane is having another ankle issue or a hamstring issue or whatever he was struggling with last year.
Yeah.
And he goes down and he's going to miss part of training camp. And then maybe he ends up being questionable week one. He drops a half round. Maybe drops upwards of a full round. Would you take him at price, or would you take a shot on him?
I'm not taking him.
Okay, I'm kind of with you there. That's one of the scenarios where I'd be like, theoretically or hypothetically, if a case like that were to happen, especially with someone like Achane, I'd be like,
all right, here's a better
maybe
example.
I'll just pass up.
If Stephon Diggs had a hamstring injury this year, are you taking him when he drops to the third round? Because he's late second right now.
No, I'd rather take a shot on Tank Dell.
Me too. Okay. So that's just one, like the situational.
So I think this is almost like a pass and pivot video. Like, get ready to pass on some players where some of these legitimate cases are going to come out, where maybe it's not just injury related. Maybe it is like team culture or contract related. And you're like, is he or is he not going to get paid? Is he or is he not going to end up playing? Brandon Ayuk could be a big case for this year. Maybe he decides to hold out until he gets paid in San Francisco, right? And again, you're playing hypotheticals, but you want to kind of think about and prepare for these scenarios coming into August.
And I think my biggest mistake with it was that, like, for example, in that league, I took 2 shots in the first 4 rounds. Like, I should have only taken 1 shot, really. Like, I should have definitely diversified more to some safety and not taken multiple shots on one team.
Here's a do. In the first 2 to 3 rounds of your fantasy draft, 2 of those 3 should be safety picks.
I see. That's what I think.
The other one should be upside. If you go upside round 1, you go safety rounds 2 and 3. If you go safety round 1, you go upside round 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Pick your choose. But if you're just taking dart throws at every single position in the first couple rounds, then you're either going to be hopefully top 3 or you're going to be bottom 3.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of fantasy football is luck and it's the luck of the draft, but there's a lot of luck of outcome and how and what they do for an entire stretch of the season as well, because at the end of the day, we just play the if and but game. It's like, well, if Jalen Waddle wasn't hurt, he would have been better. Well, he got hurt and his price wasn't good because he was a wide receiver 2 last year, going at where he was going last year, which was not what his price should have been.
Correct.
So it's some food for thought and what you want to keep in mind in those first few rounds for sure. And I think I definitely agree with you there.
Yeah.
I'd be more inclined personally to probably go upside if you're like on the tail end of the first round. And then because your hands are really tied in the first 6 picks.
Yes.
You know who you're taking the first 6 picks is pretty unquestioned. But outside of that, it's like, but since I'm going upside for my first overall pick, I'm definitely going to be inclined to go more safety in the beginning of the second.
And there's definitely a balance
third.
to be struck there.
Yeah.
So and that was kind of the point I wanted to make, because I've really hard adjusted my fantasy strategy for this year. I'm interested to see what you guys think. So let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
Do us a huge favor, drop a like on this video and subscribe. Those 2 things help us grow our channel. We're trying to grow this channel, grow our content, expand our scope here. And so you can help us by those 2 things. Like, subscribe. Appreciate you guys. See you later.